Hello, fossil friends. First, I would like to thank Jeff Liston for giving me the opportunity to present my talk at this conference. I apologize for not being able to attend in person. The purpose of this talk is to foster understanding between academic paleontologists and independent paleontologists like me. I would like to demonstrate that also people working as freelancers and as independent paleontologists outside of official academic paleontology have a thing or two to contribute to the science. In the days where it is getting increasingly harder to get digging permits and harder to move fossils from one country to another, I wonder if today's young people can still start a career like I was able to do. For those who are not familiar with the Independent Paleontology Group, I will give a short retrospective of my career as a fossil prospector, collector, and exhibition maker. Not because it's me, but because it can serve as a sample of what independent paleontologists and their organizations can do. And I stand here not alone. There are many of us who have contributed in similar ways. So, if you are in a position of influencing rules and regulations regarding the collecting of fossils, think also of the contributions of the independents. Without their work, beginning with Mary Annings in the UK in the 19th century, to the Sternbergs around the turn of the century, to the Haufs in southern Germany, to the modern independent freelance paleontologists, some of whom have made their own dinosaur museums. Many have collected and saved important specimens that literally would not be around today if they had not been collected by them on their own initiative. My story began in earnest in Wyoming when I started collecting Green River fossils, and I was offered a fossil fish quarry to dig. Several years of collecting enabled me to amass an interesting collection that included not only fossil fish, the common and the rare ones, but also some fossil birds and plants, insects, spiders, crustaceans, whatever the Green River Formation produced. After several years of intensive collection, I was approached by the Smithsonian Institution, and the Smithsonian Institution asked me, would you sell us your Green River collection? We want your fossil birds. And so, with some hesitation, I eventually convinced myself that the Smithsonian would be the best place for my collection, and I sold it to the Smithsonian Institution. Then I got interested in Badlands fossils. My friends from South Dakota, Peter Larson and his group, introduced me to collecting vertebrate fossils of the Oligocene age of South Dakota, Wyoming, and Nebraska. And here I made my first contact with vertebrate fossils like fossil turtles, fossil oreodonts, the ancestors of the cats, the dogs, the deer, the mouse, etc., etc. And I became a real fossil enthusiast, not only because almost every trip I made I could take an interesting specimen home for my collection, but because it's such a wonderful, incredible, beautiful area to collect. Also, this collection was not meant to stay in my private collection forever. The University of Zurich was interested in and eventually purchased the entire collection, and it can be seen there. It's on public display. Then, at one time, I was offered what turned out to be the world's largest fossil turtle. and 4.5 meter size fossil that had tremendous looks. At that time, we didn't have our own museum yet, and so, in fact, the turtle was so big that we couldn't even take it inside the house. We had to build a turtle shed in the yard, and so I was glad when the Natural History Museum of Vienna expressed an interest, and within a very short time then came up with the funds to buy this specimen for their collection, where it can be seen today. But this piece opened my eyes to starting my own private museum. And I said, during that time we had the fossil turtle at our presence. There was thousands of people coming day and night and wanted to see the fossil turtle, and I was completely unprepared. And then I said to myself, next time when I have an important fossil, I will be prepared. Then after the turtle, there we started looking for dinosaurs. It was not a common thing at that time that a private organization would look for dinosaurs, and in fact it was not clear where we could actually find ones. So eventually, through the help of Black Hills Institute, we found a dig site on private land in the Hell Creek Formation, and after 2 digging seasons we had our first original mounted dinosaur. This is how it looked like. It's an Edmontosaurus, and it's a composite of about 250 real bones, and the rest is restored. And this specimen eventually went to a museum in Northern Ireland in Belfast. While we had the specimen at our premises in Switzerland, thousands of people wanted to see it. And the people, since we only had one room to look at, people had to line up and wait for hours to get in and see this unusual specimen. That was the first real dinosaur that was ever shown to the public in Switzerland. First mounted dinosaur. After that, my taste for large fossils was still there, and so from a trip in Peru, I found out that there was an area about 500 kilometers south of Lima, the capital, that had fantastic Miocene fossils. Some big whales that the skeleton of these whales just lay out in the desert, and not only one, but dozens of them. So between 1985 and 92, I organized 14 expeditions to this part of South America, and we were able to dig several excellent specimens. We had a contract with the Museum of Natural History in Lima, at first for this one specimen that we called Josefina, which eventually ended up in Stuttgart at the Natural History Museum. But then we also negotiated the permit that allowed us to take 4 more, and this one went to another German museum in Karlsruhe, and we kept 1 for our own museum in Switzerland, and we have 2 that went to Japanese museums, like this fantastic one. That's one of my favorite fossils of all times, called Jonas, and the next one. This is the one that Fregata that went to another Japanese museum at Kamagori. This was wonderful times, and we had some of the best adventures you can imagine, trying to get the fossil whale specimens dug out in a desert that rivaled Sahara Desert. The part of the deal that we had with the Peruvian authorities, that we will help to protect one famous whale specimen that was situated near the Pan American Highway, and so we designed and built a small museum on top of a fossil whale, as you can see here in the picture on the lower right. The museum is called Museo de Sitio Sacaco, and it still exists today, can be visited. And then comes the area of digging for fossil dinosaurs. In 1990, I, with a group of people, reopened the old Howe Quarry in north-central Wyoming, and within days we got into a lot of big bones. And since we were so successful in digging there, we stayed 14 consecutive years, and every year came that with a group of 5 to 10 people and excavated a total of more than 10 dinosaurs. The first one we got out was at 17-meter Diplodocus. It's a composite of measured of 2 specimens. The neck and the tail are composited. The skull is pretty much from one individual. Then we got into a group of fantastically preserved dinosaurs. This Allosaur is 95% complete. But whatever you see here is original bone, and I think there's less than 10 bones that are restored. Same with this Camarasaur. Only the end of the tail is restored, and the skull is probably one of the finest skull that was ever discovered from a sauropod dinosaur. This is one specimen that caused considerable excitement in the science community because it's a baby sauropod, and it's almost complete, except for the skull, which was not found and is restored. All the rest of it is original bone. And since from other places skeletons of baby sauropod dinosaurs are missing, this is the only chance we have as scientists to study young individuals. The interesting thing is that we still don't know what species as a sauropod baby Tony is. Several groups looked at it and studied it in details, and they came up with different conclusions. So the jury still stands out if it's actually a Patasaurus, or if it's Camarasaurus, or if it's some other kind of long-necked dinosaurs. We don't know. Apparently young individuals did not have the distinct features that allow us to determine the species. Here is one that eventually got described as a new species. It became the name Catedocus siberi, which of course made me very happy that I have a dinosaur named after me. This comes, by the way, from the original Howe Quarry, the one that was originally dug by a group from the American Museum of Natural History in the 1930s, and then for 57 years the place lay dormant, and we reopened it in 1990. And here is another one. That's a new species. It's called Galeomopus. This one has a very unusual neck, and we just finished it 2 years ago, and it just shows that there are still new and undescribed species to be found in the Morrison Formation of North America. And here comes our Stegosaurus. This is Stegosaur number 1, the first one that we made. It's only about 30 to 35% real bone, but since that was the first one, it made us very happy. The black bones are the ones that are restored, and brown bones are original bone. So, and the skull is actually pretty much original bone. And then in the consecutive years, we found several more Stegosaurs. This one, whatever you see, is real bone. There's nothing added. It has a complete vertebral column. It has only 5 or 6 plates, but it has something unusual. It has some fossil skin preserved, which makes it very unique. Here is the Stegosaur number 3, which we call Lily. Lily is a different kind of, it's probably a Hesperosaurus, and it has quite different plates on the neck. The neck plates are more square than pear-shaped. Also, what you see is real bone. There's nothing restored in that. It also has quite a complete skull. And this is one that we didn't discover. It was discovered on a neighboring ranch. The people that found it too difficult to dig, and we were called in as a team and helped them to dig up the specimen. When we realized it's one of the most complete Stegosaurs ever found, we took it to our museum in Switzerland and prepared it then, and today it can be seen at the British Museum of Natural History in London. Of course, we do extensive documentation. It helps us in determining which bones go together, because often we did not find the complete dinosaurs in just one digging season. That the recovery of a complete specimen was sometimes spread out over several years, and documenting helped us to analyze what goes to which animal, since they were so densely packed. This is the other quarry that we opened also on the Howe Ranch, which we call the Howe Scott Quarry. Here we continued our work from 1995 to 2003, and also this is where our first Stegosaur was found and where the Galeomopus was found. And here is a view to our dinosaur hall in Atal, and I invite everybody cordially to come and visit we have 10 original dinosaurs that are all self-collected and prepared, and I don't think there's another place in Europe where you can see that many Morrison dinosaurs that are all original. For dessert, I brought you a short animated movie called Happy Dinosaur Hunting. It was done for us by students of the local art school in Switzerland. Happy dinosaur hunting, and have a great time at the SVP meeting.